Welcome to the Same Side Selling Podcast. I'm your host, Ian Altman. What's the difference between sales and recruiting? We're going to discuss that on this week's episode. I talk to many businesses and have over the years about sales. And the funny part is that now I've had conversations with my clients who say, look, we grew our business from 100 million to 600 million, from 15 million to 100 million, and now we have this big hiring problem and it's your fault. So how can you help us better compete on a recruiting angle as opposed to just on the sales side? So what are some of the big mistakes that people make? Well, when we go through a recruiting process and we're recruiting talent, we tend to often defer to objective criteria. Namely, what are the check boxes for their skills? What are some of their specific experiences? They need to have so many years of experience, and we make it all about the position we're trying to fill, which makes perfect sense. But that would be the same thing as us trying to sell our products and service by just talking about the features and capabilities of our products instead of why people would want to come here. And so what I want you to consider is that sales is something that we all understand very plainly about, well, we're trying to get people who will buy into our products, and ultimately we want them to buy it irrespective of price. So even if we're not the least expensive, we want them to buy from us. Similarly, as an employer, we want to attract talent. And we want to attract talent that isn't necessarily looking to leave their current place, but finds our business more attractive. And ultimately, we want to make sure that we're attracting people not just because we're going to pay them more. Because if I attract somebody to my organization because I say that I'm willing to pay them 10% more, well, a year from now, they might leave my company because someone else is willing to pay them 5% more than that. And then it leads to this environment where people are just seeking the most dollars. Just in the same way that in sales, if I sell to somebody because I'm 10% less than somebody else, then a year from now, they might leave me because someone else is willing to undercut me by 5%. And eventually, it's a race to the bottom that we can't win. On the converse, in recruiting, it's a race to the top in terms of compensation that we may not be able to sustain. So how do we differentiate this? Well, there are a few steps to this. The first one is the notion of how do we go about recruiting or attracting talent? So many organizations will cast this wide net and try and get anybody with a pulse into the organization. The first thing we need to do is differentiate what we do different from other companies. Now, in sales, I teach something called the client vision pyramid. And the client vision pyramid is the notion of if someone's looking for some help that relates to your products and services, that you would say to them, gee, people come to us, they're usually looking for help at one of three levels. Our industry is kind of shaped like a pyramid. At the base effective level is you can direct them. You already know exactly what you need. You just need people who can do the work. The middle level is kind of a cookie cutter approach. And the highest level is strategic, what we call the engaged level. And at that engaged level, that's where the organization is focused on other metrics and how you're going to grow your organization and how you're going to improve your customer experience and getting into a more strategic vision. The same concept applies in recruiting. And there's a talk I give now called Same Side Recruiting, and it's all about this notion of how do we compete and stand out in a recruiting environment. And fundamentally, we need to differentiate what it is that we do. And instead of a client vision pyramid, you might call it a candidate vision pyramid. And in the candidate vision pyramid, the idea is that you share, well, when people are looking for a career move, they're usually looking at one of three levels. See, career opportunities in our industry are kind of shaped like a pyramid. At the base level is the effective level. This is where someone just comes in and says, look, I just want to do the job. I want to make the most money I can make and just leave me alone. The next level is what we call the enhanced level. The enhanced level, this is where an organization not only empowers you to take on the job, but gives you the tools to help develop your skills, gives you a track where you can advance in that career path throughout the organization and where you can be rewarded for extraordinary results. At the highest level is what we call the engaged level. Now, this might be where an organization focuses beyond just the employment and looks at the balance in your overall life. They might have programs in place that help you when it comes to your wellness and your health. And they might figure out ways to adjust your schedule so you don't have to miss your children's sporting events or academic events or arts and entertainment, whatever it happens to be. But the idea is that it's a level where the organization is focused more than just on the job. And if you decided to change paths within the organization, they would give you a migration path for that if something else was more enriching for you. Which level are you looking for? And see, the idea is that we're now finding out what motivates the candidate rather than just saying, we're looking for these skills. Now we're saying, well, we're looking for people who care about this vision of what it's like to work here. And what that does, it promotes cultural alignment. So now you have people who come in and they care about the same things your organization cares about. Just like in the client vision pyramid, if we talk to people about the 3 levels of effective, enhanced, and engaged, the clients who care about that engaged level are going to care about the things that we do well as an organization. The candidate vision pyramid makes sure that we're attracting people who care about those things that you're investing in as an organization to create a better work environment. Because if they don't care about those things, they're probably not going to be a long-term player in your business. But if they do, now you're going to attract someone differently. And for my clients who have taken this approach, they've actually found that they're attracting more talent. And when people are taking the job, they're saying to them, look, other people were willing to pay me a little bit more, but I felt like this was going to be a better fit for me and my family than going to these other places who were going to pay me a little bit more, but it wasn't going to be as fulfilling. So remember, when we're recruiting, we're in essence selling our culture. And if we don't sell our culture, then all we're selling is salary. And if we're just selling salary, then don't be surprised when somebody decides to move because someone else pays them a little more salary. But if they're aligned with our culture, they're likely to want to stick around because it's going to feed them in ways that go beyond just their salary. Next time you're in the recruiting world, think about how are you positioning yourself using this idea of same-side recruiting instead of just focusing on sales. And if you're someone who's looking for a job, ask yourself this. Would you just want to go to the place that's going to pay you the most, or would you want to go to the place where you're going to be fairly compensated, but it's best aligned culturally with your goals and objectives? When I've talked to people, they usually pick the latter, which is an indication that if you follow this model, you're going to see the same success that other organizations have seen. If there are topics you'd like me to cover, just drop me a note to ian@ianaltman.com. Please be sure to like and subscribe and share this with other people you think would benefit from it. And I'll see you next week on the Same Side Selling podcast. So long.